We all know that good habits are something to aim for, but if you're someone like me, a lot of the time we fall short of actually keeping them. Hi, Archie here, a first year medical student, and today we're going to be going through how we can make sure that we make our habits stick so that we can live more intentional lives for the better. Firstly, we're going to talk about how having a focus is one of the most important things in building a habit. Then we'll talk about our environment and how it can make it so much easier for you to keep up a habit if you design what's around you. Then we'll look at how being accountable brings everything together and makes it easier to keep that habit going and going. And then we'll also take a look at my favorite habit tracking app of choice, Done. All right, let's get straight into it. You actually need to know what you want to pursue and why you want to do it. If you don't actually have a proper reason for it, it's most likely that the habit is just going to fall down really quickly. There's been numerous times when I've tried to wake up earlier, but all I do is that I get up and I press snooze and I go back to sleep. And really, I think the reason why this didn't work part of the time is just because I was doing it for the sake of it. I used to wake up at 5 a.m. every day before school so I could get my UCAT practice and study out of the way, and it made sure that I was always keeping consistent with it. That was the proper reason that I had at a time to wake up early. That was a clear enough reason for me, and that's why that habit actually stuck. Once I started uni, I didn't actually need to wake up earlier anymore because this wasn't one of the goals that I had to study for the UCAT anymore. So then the habit just slowly disappeared. However, I actually still kind of wake up early, but just not 5 a.m. I wake up a little bit later now, but I still wake up early because I know it's important for me to get the things that I want done. Like with most things, we have to address the root cause of a problem if we're trying to build a better habit. With the same example that I just mentioned, if you're trying to wake up early but you can't do it, you need to figure out what is the reason that is causing you to keep hitting snooze, for example. Maybe it's because you're tired. Maybe that's because you didn't get enough sleep. Maybe that's because you stayed up too late working on tasks that you should have had done earlier in the day. Maybe you put too much in a day and expected too much of yourself, or there were some time management issues there. What this shows is that habits are really connected to each other. And so this thing about not getting enough sleep might be dealing with something else about scheduling your day. And that often shows us that there is a root cause that needs to be dealt with at the same time. Just like the last thing that we went through, being accountable is one of the most important things as well. Just like Rahit, who posted on TikTok every day for having no fizzy drink, we can be more accountable by including other people in the process. I tend to do this when I need a little bit of a boost, and I'll let someone know that I'm trying to build this habit. That's actually why I do Study With Me live stream sometimes, because when I see that all of you guys are watching, I feel really accountable and that I need to keep studying. You can do this in your own life. For example, if you wanted to get up early every day, let someone in your house know about it. It makes it a lot easier to get something done when you know that something is pushing you forward. And the next way to be accountable is by habit tracking. Habit tracking has worked so well for me because of how powerful it really is. With many things, there is instant feedback in what you're trying to do. So if you think about a tennis serve, it's really easy to get feedback in how you did your serve. Is it good? Is it bad? And then how can you fix it up a little bit better? Are you going to hit it a little bit further? Are you going to hit it a little bit less? However, with building habits, the feedback and the result are pretty delayed. That's why the habit tracker can have quite a few benefits in dealing with the challenges of traditional habit building. As James Clear says from Atomic Habits, it can create those visual clues for you after even that initial motivation is gone. It motivates you to see that progress, and it makes it harder for you to actually go against it and break your streak. And of course, when you have that habit tracking in play, there is that instant gratification of ticking off another day. I've always found it pretty difficult to stay on top of my habits, but since finding out about Done, it's been a lot easier to keep that tracking going and going. And essentially, I've been able to keep it on top of my habits a lot better with this app. I've tried different ways of habit tracking before, including just keeping notes on Notability and a few apps as well, but Done has become my honest app of choice for habit tracking. One of the reasons I really like Done is because you're able to actually get started with it for free, and you're able to keep all those habits in just one app. And what I basically put in there is my most important habits that I really think they're going to have an impact in the long run. The app adds that reward that James Clear was speaking about and adds that instant gratification to the whole process, making it a lot easier to keep it up. The app also provides a lot of flexibility, which actually makes it easier for you to keep it going in the long run. And it also has this cool feature where you're able to see how you've been tracking with the habits over a long period of time with the analytics section. Please go check out the link in the description if you're interested in checking out this app for free. And if you find that it's actually working out well, you might want to consider the premium option. That's going to give you access to tracking a lot more habits as opposed to just 3. And it's also going to give you access to a lot more features which are going to make it easier for you to live a more intentional life. I think one of the things as well is that if you have these sort of apps which have a money option, then you can be more accountable by putting that money on the line. And that's because you're going to want to get the value that you put towards it. So that's definitely something to consider, and it's something that I actually do. Another thing that I have to say is eventually there's going to be a point where your habit is going to break. You're going to stop that streak. There's going to be some emergency that pops up. James Clear says that in these circumstances, you just have to remind yourself of one simple rule: never miss twice. Mistakes happen, but you shouldn't let that second mistake happen, because that's going to end up creating its own sort of habit, a bad habit. All right, let's talk about my favorite thing about habit building, which is environment design. This is a huge idea that James Clear goes into talking about in his book, Atomic Habits, and I'm sure some of you have already read it. James goes on about how researchers have found that people will often just choose the default option that is presented to them. Most notably, if there are some snacks on the kitchen table and you walk past that kitchen table a few times a day, you're probably going to eat them by the end of the week. A lot of the decisions that we make throughout a day are just the simplest decision to make. Of course, why would you want to always go for the harder option if it's just going to make your life harder every single minute? Now, you might say you can focus on self-discipline and willpower, but the reality is you're just taking the harder route if you're always trying to depend on those things. This idea of self-discipline can easily be the thing that was helping you in keeping a habit to being the thing that you use as a cop-out because you couldn't hold it anymore. Like, you always hear people say, "Oh, I wish I could wake up at 5 a.m. like you, but I just don't have the willpower or self-discipline to do that." We actually even learned about this in psychology last year. This is about the idea of ambivalence. If your mind is thinking one thing, your actions are probably not going to do the other. And so, of course, it makes it really hard to wake up at 5 a.m. if you're saying that you don't have the self-discipline to do it. Okay, what we can learn from this is the easiest thing that you can do to make your habits stick more is by designing your environment. I try and do this wherever I can to build those good habits. I always have my laptop connected, and that's always set up right behind me so that whenever I want to get work or study down, I just have to sit down and then I can get started straight away. Another thing that I'll do is just before I go to bed, I'll put my phone on this side of the room, and when I wake up from the other side of the room, I'm going to have to get up early in the morning and turn off the alarm. By that point, I'm already up, and it makes it really hard to press snooze and go back to bed, although sometimes it still does happen. Another thing that I do is I try and limit the snacks that are inside my house, and when I do have them, I have them stashed away so that when I have that craving or temptation to have some chocolate, it's going to be really hard for me to find it. Another way that we can think about this is about reducing static friction. You can think about friction as that resistance to get up and go do something. And if that is higher, it's a lot harder to get that thing done. You can increase the friction of bad habits and lower the friction for habits that you want to keep. An example of this is going to the gym. You want to reduce that friction so it's easier for you to go and exercise. All right, so here's the equation for it. The important thing here is the coefficient for the static friction. We can lower that factor by increasing the funness of that activity. We can make it more social, we can give ourselves some rewards, or we can block some time to get it done. For example, I do most of my exercises at home just because that really lowers the friction for me to go out and go about my exercise. Whereas going to the gym takes a lot of effort because I have to get ready, go in the car, drive there, work out, and then come back as well. So that friction gets a lot in the way, and it makes it a lot harder for me to go to the gym sometimes. So it's a lot easier just to do it at home. And on the flip side, I will try and increase the friction of touching my phone. So when I'm trying to get some work or study done, I'll throw my phone over across to my bed. And then it's really hard for me to see those notifications and respond to them. These actionable tips make it so much easier to make that habit stick and keep it for much longer. These are the pillars that I used in year 12 to make sure that I was going to keep on top of all of my school and my uni and all of the other things that I did as well. If you haven't seen my video on how I kept productive in year 12, despite doing all these other things, please go check it out. Also, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.